Your water's gonna fall.
Yes, it's gonna fall. This is an old soap.
That's really close.
This is an old soap.
You're soaked?
Yeah.
Oh, well, what'd you do that for?
Because I just spilled my water and I just spill it all over.
My daughter's being
And I
crazy.
just spill it in my dress. See? Look.
Hey everybody, we're a few minutes away, so I started up early, so in case I had some problems. So just hang out and we'll get kicking in like 5 minutes. This is Piper. Piper very much wants your attention. This might end up being a problem. I think I'm going to, hey Kelsey. I think I'm going to mount this phone. Piper, this is going to be an issue if you do this the entire time. So please chill out. I'm going to put this on a tripod. God, the live camera is super zoomed in. Like, I feel very close to you right now. There we go. This will help. There we go. That is much easier. Alexa, what time is it? Alexa, what time is it?
Time is 4:57 p.m.
4:57. We're like 3 minutes away. Future game historian. Whatever. Yeah, no. Historians have degrees. What are you? Oh, you mean her? Yeah, okay, sure. So yeah, we're just going to be starting in just a couple of minutes. I said 5 o'clock, so I want to stick to that. How's everybody doing? So this is also going to be an AMA. Honey, I need you to stop.
No.
Okay? We need to relax a little bit, okay? Just a little bit, okay? Can we just relax a little bit? I can't have you climbing me, okay? You can't climb me. Okay, alright, hold on. Hold on. Hold on, I'm getting the please hold me. This will be Just kidding. Come here. I'm gonna hold you. You want me to hold you or not?
Help me.
Okay, we're not doing wings. Come on. Okay. Okay, so this might be a thing. You know, it's quarantine, so I got this thing 24 hours a day, which is fine, but she's a lot, especially when she realizes that she can get attention. So, alright, so we're gonna go ahead and start. Let me turn the camera around. Actually, you know what, let me do a little introduction. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Stefan Reese, and I've been a game collector for a really long time. Honey, I need to be a little bit quieter so I can talk, okay? Just a little bit quieter. She thinks she's hilarious. So, I've been a game collector for a long time. And one of I like to specialize in niches that not necessarily are popular things to collect for. So last year I built a game exhibit for the Portland Retro Gaming Expo around Nintendo gameplay counselors. I brought a panel of counselors with me. We did a whole display for the Video Game History Foundation, who is present in the stream right now. So my next project was to build this Art of Nintendo Power exhibit based around my Nintendo Power original art collection. Unfortunately, due to the current hi Kelsey, due to the current health crisis, all of the conventions that I was going to debut this collection at were canceled. which is fine. I get it. Let's all be safe, right? I hope you're all safe out there. So in order to basically satisfy myself, and so I didn't do all this work for, and then just have to sit on it for probably a year. There's actually already, Geek Hero, there's actually already a, baby, I need to put you down. I'm sorry, I can't hold you anymore. I can't hold you anymore. Honey, I like, seriously can't hold you anymore. You need to stop. You're fine, honey. Okay, we may have to deal with her. Anyway, there's already a video. It's up on the channel. So please feel free to. I released that last week, so please feel free to look at that. Oh, you're absolutely welcome. I'm happy to do it. You know, like I said, I did just release a video, but I wanted people to be able to ask questions about the collection too. So we're just gonna kind of march through the collection as if this were a museum exhibit. Even if you were to see one of my displays at a convention, you probably wouldn't see as much as you're seeing today. You'll quickly realize how much space all these art pieces take up. I didn't even realize how much space I would need until I started doing this. So putting it together for this video. So yeah, you're really seeing everything I have framed right now, except for things that don't get put in frames, like original Xerox copies. A lot of production work from Nintendo Power is original Xerox, right? Original Xerox, where the only existing copy of something is a photocopy. I tend not to frame those things because they are, one, not as delicate, and two, on a massive scale, not as many people like need to see that up on a wall, right? Like they're happy to flip through a binder or look online, right, at a scan. So anyway, so let's just get to the art. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me, and or if you need me to go back to something. I know there's a little bit of lag on the feed, so if thank you so much, I really appreciate it. So if you want me to go back to something, I'm happy to do that. This is I have about 2 hours for you guys, so
That's too steep to go.
I don't think that will take that long, but if we do, that's great. Okay, so I'm gonna flip the camera around and we're gonna get started. All right, so this wall, these are all covers, and so the way that I say that my frames are color coded, that's not entirely true. The things that are color coded are the covers, essentially, because basically covers tend to be smaller pieces of work physically because it's just a single piece, a single page, and a single image normally. So those aren't as big as, like, you know, my full set of Zombies Ate My Neighbor's artwork that is a tremendously large frame. And so I didn't want the size of the frames of the smaller pieces to detract from what is really the focus of the collection, the covers, right? So I made sure that I used matting. They're all the same color red, all the same color yellow, for anything that's a cover, so that you're immediately drawn to it. And then if I group them together, then it's a very striking thing that will pull your eye away from some of the less significant pieces towards these. So with the exception of 3 of these pieces on this wall, these are all the same artist. So I'm gonna walk through these. The vast majority of covers for Nintendo Power in this era were airbrush. So here's 2 examples, basically. So this is the finished cover, right? This is Battletoads and Double Dragon. And then next to it we have Star Fox. And you'll notice that Star Fox here is in pencil. What this is some people would refer to this as a rough, but it's not really a rough in the sense, like, typically when someone says, oh, this is a rough of the image, they mean that someone sketched it and then created a different work. With this airbrush artist, what he did was he did these pieces in pencil and then created a stencil off of them. So the final work is really line for line identical to these to this pencil work. So I hesitate to call them roughs because it was less of I made an image and then I made another image, and more of I made an image and then I made another image out of that first image. So so I don't know what you want to call these, but the pencils are really cool. They're on vellum, and so normally they would be transparent. I did have them mounted to a board so that you would actually see them, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see them in the frame. So while I don't usually dry mount art, I did dry mount these vellum pieces for clarity, because otherwise you just wouldn't be able to see them. You'd see right through them. So here's one for Donkey Kong for the Game Boy. This is one of my favorite pieces in the entire collection. This is the cover for Aladdin. I am very fond of the game, but also I have a storied history. Oh, nice. A storied history of working for Disney. So I was very, very fond of this piece. And what's funny about this piece is I was looking for it for months and months and months and months and reaching out to people that I knew in the industry. I've spent 17 years in the game industry, working in the game industry, so my quote-unquote Rolodex runs deep. And so I was looking for this piece for months and months and months, and then literally the week after I gave up, I found this artist, and he kind of ancillarily was like, "Oh yeah," because I was after this piece, which we'll get to in a minute, but ancillarily he's like, "Oh yeah, I also have this this Aladdin piece," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" So so I'm very, very pleased to have this piece. Again, this is another beautifully airbrushed piece. I do have the pencils for this as well. Some of these I do also have pencils for, but the way that I frame this is some of these final pieces were lost to time, like Star Fox here, or this Wario, which was never produced, which we'll get to in a minute. And so if I only have a pencil example, that's what I framed. If I have the final example, then I keep the pencils put away, because it was just mostly a budgetary and space reason, right? Because, hey, Old Time Gaming, what's up? Because essentially, if I had the cover framed and then the final and then the pencil on top of it, you're now looking at a frame that's like coming out to here, right? And I can barely fit, when we get into the game room, you'll see what I mean. I can barely fit the art that I have already. In fact, I have a cart in a spare bedroom right now full of art although the art's put up right now, but when I'm not on full display, I have a cart for art that as I cycle things out. So I already don't have room for the pieces that I want to display. So if I can make a piece smaller, I'm going to. It was a personal choice that I frame every production piece with an example of the actual final, the published final, and that already makes the pieces a lot bigger. So yeah. Fun fact, on a lot of these covers that I got, most of these cover pieces that I'm showing you now were from the same artist. He also was given unused covers, as in like they were never attached to a magazine, unused covers from Nintendo Power upon finishing the pieces essentially for his portfolio. And so I got those from him too. So as you're seeing, most of these are actually unused covers. Down here we have Final Fantasy II. I love this piece because it really has nothing to do with the game, but it is a very iconic and classic piece, and I love it so much. I was surprised when I got it that it was this small, because as you can see, in comparison to most of the other pieces, it's a smaller piece, but it doesn't make it any less amazing. Here we have Super Street Fighter 2 with T-Hawk on the cover. This guy actually spawned a good conversation about stereotyping when I posted it on Twitter. And it was actually, and I really mean good conversation. I'm not saying that facetiously. Um, but I'm happy to have the piece, and history is history. So yeah, I do have a couple players guides. This is one of them. This is for Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Interestingly enough, this is the second cover that was drawn for this book. I'm after the original cover that was not used, but it was used in a couple ads, so I'd still like to have it. But this is great. Interesting. Both of the strategy guide covers I have, this one and Super Metroid here, they cover up pieces of the integral pieces of the art with their logo, which is silly because in this instance, the artist actually painted in the turbo brick and then they put in a bigger one, which is ridiculous. Now, if you look at the actual book, on the inside cover, you'll find that they do have the unadulterated art. So when I showed Super Metroid for the first time, people were upset that they put the badging over Samus, but if you look at the inside cover of the strategy guide, this piece in its entirety is shown. This is a Pencils for a Wario cover. We did get this Wario Land cover. It's the I forget what issue number it is, but interestingly enough, this piece just wasn't used, and it's very, very similar to the one that they published, and arguably I like this one better. So I'm not really sure what happened there. There's some things that were lost to time, and sometimes you can glean things like what happened. But for instance, this Cyrax cover, we did get a Mortal Kombat Cyrax cover, but it was on model, and as beautiful as this painting is, and this is one of the few paintings on the wall that is not airbrush. This is a gouache. Am I saying that right? The artists in the feed can correct me, but this is a gouache piece, and but Cyrax is totally off model. He looks nothing like Cyrax actually does in the game. So it's easy to see why they didn't choose this piece and went with the other Cyrax cover, which off the top of my head, I believe they just use assets from the game. Above here, another one of my favorite covers, the Darkwing Duck cover. You'll see a lot of glare coming off of Darkwing because his line work is actually on acetate, like it would be for a painted cell, and then the airbrush is all the color in the back. I'm not sure why the artist chose to do it this way, but I mean, it turns out to great effect, right? The other two ancillary pieces here, the Thok and the Yao, were he provided those to the magazine so that they could put them on the cover as they see fit, and you can see they did use them here and here. He did also provide me with a third, I think it's PAL, a third sound effect cover or sound effect piece that wasn't used in the magazine but was provided to Nintendo. I didn't frame it with it because it was not published, and as you can see, it's already a really, really big frame. Another one of my favorite covers. I have such a visceral memory of this issue in my mailbox. Up here is the pencils for the Guile cover. Again, with these pencil stencils, or these pencils on vellum, they were used to create stencils. So all the intricacy did still go into the piece. So like all the line work on his pants is actually in the final painting. This piece needs no introduction. This is, of course, Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo. This piece is a little interesting because it's so composite. Unfortunately, the artist didn't have... He also painted the background for the cover here, because the background is airbrushed. But he no longer had that piece. But here's this is all the final ink work. And so this isn't... these aren't pencil roughs like the previous vellum pieces. These are actually the final line work that was used for the cover.
Stop the lizard.
So in a minute we're gonna get to, that was basically the final piece of cover art. There's a couple on another wall that I'll show you, but for this wall we're pretty much done. One thing that one last thing that I'll show you, and we'll get to the clay sculptures next. But the early Nintendo Power covers were done with photography rather than art, and so some of those models survived, and I have some of those models, be it clothing items or scratch-built models or kit bashes. But some of them didn't survive because you have to understand in the 80s and 90s, artists weren't thinking like, oh, this thing that I need that I just made is going to be worth something, or I need to save it, or there's going to be historical value. They were just, I already got paid for this thing, I have no use for it, and it's taking up space. So I should just get rid of it, and that kind of happened to a couple pieces. Maniac Mansion is one of them. So the mansion, I'm gonna stand on this chair. Hold on, let me clear some stuff away.
Yeah.
Okay. So the mansion, that piece was 3.5 to 4 feet tall, and it was 200 to 300 pounds of polymer clay. So I understand again why this one didn't survive, but unfortunately it didn't survive. So what was provided to me were the as far as the artist knows, the only surviving photographs of the model. So I have them framed here.
We need the butt. We need the undercut. We need the snow.
And these photographs, if you want like glare-free photos, those are on my Twitter account, so you can go search for those.
It's the two undercut piece.
It is pretty. It's gorgeous, and I'm glad that I was able to rescue what exists. I'm glad these photos exist, because I mean, shots like this. I mean, this is probably the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Like knowing that they actually photographed this outside for the cover is just an amazing thing. And this is just a view of this piece that we just would never have been able to see otherwise.
It's a lizard locked us in.
Who locked you in?
No.
What?
No. 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 No.
All right. So here we have. Hey, that's enough. Thank you. So here we have. This is what I was discussing previously. These are some of the models. In a museum exhibit display, I would have had the actual covers that they represent with them, and unfortunately, like I did here, where I actually had a mounted page. I was going to do that for all these covers, and we'll get to this awesome piece in a second. But I didn't have time to get that done, so all that stuff is actually, yes, we can see the other side of Mario. All that stuff is sitting in the framers right now in quarantine. So, like I said, there is some stuff that is not here because it's sitting in my framers in quarantine. So this display would look a little bit different. I did see Miss Lewin ask to see the other side of Mario. So before I do this and ruin everyone's hopes and dreams, know that with clay sculpture, especially when you're photographing it from a specific angle, the artist knew that you wouldn't ever see it from the other side, so he didn't bother to sculpt it. So if we turn him around, hold on, I have him earthquake pasted to the shelf. There we go. Safety first. So if we turn him around, he's actually mounted to a popsicle stick. I'll just pick him up. I washed my hands. This is a corona-free cast. So he's actually mounted to a couple popsicle sticks. You can clearly see he's made out of polymer clay. And then he has this odd wire extension coming out of him, like Cthulhu-esque extension. So again, super, like, the fact that this survived, aside from like a broken eyebrow, is just intense. And he does look great, as like still looks great. Oh my god. So yeah, I'm super pleased to have him. So yeah, again, this is the Mario paint cover. If you guys want issue numbers, I don't have them right now. I'm sorry. Next to him is the Mario 3 Mario. And again, this is one of those things where, I'm not going to unmount him because I have him like exactly how I want him. But as you can see, he also was not finished. He was only finished from the sides that they needed him. And unfortunately, in this case, he was a little bit more damaged than the other pieces. One of his ears is missing. His tail is missing. But and reportedly none of the other pieces in that piece on that cover survived. So that's sort of the last remaining piece, as far as I know, that survived for that cover. This Mega Man is actually paired with this Wily, which is probably the star piece in this collection, to be honest, or one of them anyway. I love it so much. So Dr. Wily is 100% polymer clay, except for obviously his hair. And he is just a torso and a face, and he is Velcroed to the inside of this thing. So you probably noticed that on a few different pictures I have of him online were different orientations. I'm not going to do it right now because I honestly don't know how many times I can do that before I actually rip out the Velcro. But he can be turned to face forward or face to the side. I faced him to the side only because that's how he's displayed in the case, and I want him looking at the intended audience. But he's all kit bash. There's actually an LED light in here. These are like all like plumbing parts. There's an LED light in here that used to be incandescent, but the artist changed it out before I acquired it. So that does glow if I were to plug him in. And then underneath here, this is all model kit and like weird stuff. He didn't sculpt any of this. This is all like plumbing pieces and whatever he could find to make the underside of this. Yes, my daughter is crazy. These are the rocket shoes for the Track and Field 2 cover. And that one I know the number because it's so early. This is from issue 3. And these are Converse, as you can see, like, because they're falling apart, right? Rightly so. But they badged over the Converse here, but obviously this one fell off. They are my size because people keep asking, but no, I will never put them on because I'm terrified that they would fall apart. Plus, just why would I do that? But yeah, so all the badging is just stickers, hand-cut stickers. The rockets on this pair fell off and before I got them, so who knows where they are. But there is the Nickelodeon blimp. But they're intact on this side. If anybody feels like they've asked a question and I haven't gotten to it, please say it again, because I can't catch all of them all the time. So next in this case is the Super C mech. That cover is a hot mess. Like, you can't really tell what's going on. But this robot... funnily enough, the crab walkers in this game have 4 legs, and he has 3. But again, from orientation perspective, this is how you saw him. This is the front facing the cover, and then you'd have your 2 dudes like up here, up in the hill, looking down at him. But this guy only has 3 legs because of the perspective. He unfortunately was damaged in shipping. But I was able to repair him. So, but you can see a little bit of there's like a crack through here. Again, he is almost all kit bash. This artist used a lot of Gundam kits, I have found. This headpiece is a piece of the Gundam. And then this is just like glob top, just slapped over. This doesn't feel like polymer clay. It feels more like a resin. But yeah, so everything else is kit bash except for the big shell over the top of him. So now we get to these. These are some of my favorite pieces in the collection as well. What are you doing?
Playing my drum.
Oh, okay. I just heard this. I heard this odd sound, and when I hear odd sounds and I can't see my daughter, then I gotta go question that. So these are one of the hardest pieces to find in Nintendo Power or in Nintendo Power collecting are reader created art. So like, Punny, I need you to stop playing that drum, or I'm gonna take it away. Do you understand? Piper? Sorry. Quick break for parenting. Piper, stop playing the drum or I'm going to take it away. Okay, well, I need you to stop for a minute, okay? Or just be quiet. Or go to your room. Okay? Quarantine. Anyway, so reader-created art is very difficult to find.
My microphone is broken.
These are actual felt.
My microphone is broken.
I'm sorry, honey. That's not something that I can deal with right now. Okay.
But I want my microphone.
I understand that. Daddy will fix it later. Okay. All right. Anyway, so these are felt sculptures made by, at the time she was about 12, but these were actually sent in to Nintendo Power, or a photograph was sent in by a reader. The reason why reader art is so difficult to come by is because Nintendo never sent it back to them. So in this case, she just sent a photograph. So you can see the Roy Koopa there and the little star guy and the piranha plant in this photo here. It's not focusing well, but these are the original pieces. So like there's the Roy and there's the piranha plant and there's the star guy. And she was kind enough. She was so thrilled that anyone cared that she sent them to me. Unfortunately, the other pieces in that photo were lost to time. Again, they were made from felt and by a 12-year-old, so you can imagine the construction quality. So yeah, not much that survived. But so these are actual original reader created pieces of art from I want to say it was 90. This is out of the issue with the cars on the cover from Stunt Race FX. So whatever the Stunt Race FX issue was, that's where this is from. All right, moving on to finish off this wall. All three of these are posters. And these are the 3 posters in my collection, actually. I do have pencils for one more on the way, but those are sort of stuck in shipping limbo. All 3 of these are from the same artist. And so you look at this and you go, well, Stefan, that's a photograph. That is actually not a photograph. So what the artist did was he took a photograph of these 2 gentlemen and then painted over the top of it. So somewhere under the layers of this paint is a photograph of these 2 guys without the background, right? So the background is 100% airbrush. But he went in and he hand painted over the top of the photograph. So while they do look like they're photos with a filter over them, it's actually original paint. Next is the Lost Vikings poster here. What's crazy about this is if you look at the cover of Lost Vikings, the art is almost identical. So the artist also did the cover for the game, Lost Vikings, but and if you look at that, it's almost identical. But they're landscape instead of portrait. So for a while, some folks thought that he had actually they just cut and pasted. Like this was the original art for the cover, and then they just cut and pasted them in a different orientation for the cover of the game. But that's not true. Like he actually is such an incredible artist and was so good at duplicating his own work that that these are two different paintings. So who knows where the actual cover for Lost Vikings is, but this is definitely not it. This is a bespoke painting for this poster. I think they also used it in an ad, but it's just a beautiful piece. Down here is Demon's Crest. Again, same artist. This is the poster, and this is the original painting. What I love about both the way that these were framed, this one and the Super C piece, is how the background looks like it just continues. Like it's a duplication, right? Obviously, but it's just interesting how if I took this away, you would expect it to be for there to be more art there, right? And it would just continue. So that's what I love about this frame job. Plus the purple suede. I love framing things in purple suede. You'll notice these two pieces are color coded for covers. That's because this piece is actually from the back cover of the strategy guide for Mario 3. So you can see them, the two Marios there would be holding screenshots, and there they are holding those screenshots. This next piece is pretty cool. This is Shadow from Final Fantasy 3/6, and you're saying to yourself, well, we didn't get a Final Fantasy 3 cover, and you would be correct. So this was never used, but it is an American painting of a Final Fantasy 3 character, which is not a thing, right? Like very seldom do you ever find American art for Final Fantasy. But this is Shadow and his dog. Is it Interceptor? Someone say I'm right or I'm wrong. But it's a beautiful piece. It was never used. Instead, for whatever reason, we got the Illusion of Gaia cover, which I'm fine with because I love Illusion of Gaia. But yeah, this is the cover we could have had. Instead of Illusion of Gaia, we would have had the Final Fantasy 3 piece. All right, now we're actually working our way down the hall. There's a lot more art to show. I hope you guys are in for it. This is probably the piece that made my Twitter channel explode, or my Twitter feed explode. This is Super Castlevania 4. And unlike everything I've shown you before, this is actually an oil painting. So this is oil on canvas, and it's beautiful. And as you can see here, it's gigantic.
We got to get back to the princess.
It is by far the largest piece in my Nintendo Power collection. I have heard of other pieces that were this big, but I've never actually seen one. All right, so the hallway is really poorly lit, so I'm going to bust out my LED light now. I'm going to open the bathroom. So I apologize for the kind of janky way in which I'm doing this. All right, so this is Rock and Roll Racing from Blizzard, although were they Silicone and Synapse at the time? So I will point out some of these frames you actually see I did label them. The plan, why are you not focusing? There we go. The plan was to do plaques for all of them, but again, when all the shows started getting canceled, that timeline sort of expanded infinitely. So some of these plaques are gonna have, or some of these frames are gonna have plaques on them. Some of them don't. But yeah, here we are. These are the cars for Rock and Roll Racing. This piece is annoyingly large because they put, anytime that they put art on the back of the poster, and I have that art, I have to then frame the poster, right? So that's the back of the poster that was in this issue, and there's the art for them. I referenced this piece earlier in the stream. This is Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Of the entire spread for the issue, I'm missing two pieces. There is a baby that I don't have, and there is the title piece, where it says "Zombies Ate Your Neighbors" at the very top of at the top of the spread. I don't own that, but yeah, this is everything else. How do I get? I would love. I want. There we go. Live chat. All messages are visible. There we go. I want to be able to see the chat. So this is volume 51, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Chainsaw Guy. All right, down here, another incredibly large frame. Again, these frames could have been smaller if I had not gotten the idea to frame them all with their production pieces. Because obviously on a 5-page spread, or a 6-page spread like Zombies, that takes up a lot of frame space. So, but this is for Mighty Final Fight. This is volume 50. So that was actually the gold cover with Link's Awakening. And so here we have Hagar and is it Cody and Guy, and then so they reused this art, surprise surprise, for a couple pieces, but then they had these like little fight scene vignettes at the bottom. So this one matches up to this one to this one, here to here, here to here, and then here to here.
Yeah.
So I actually love this art. And these were a little bit trickier because they were drawn on computer paper with like Copic marker rather than actual paintings. Most of this that I have is either paintings on board or cells, like animation cells. But a few pieces are done on like computer paper, and these were done on computer paper. Okay. Next we have Congo's Caper, volume 47. Sorry, I'm crawling around on my floor here. So this is, again, I mentioned I didn't have the title image for Zombies, and this is what I'm talking about, right? So this is the Congo Caper title image. I framed him separately because he was vastly different size than the rest of them here. Again, here's another example where almost all of the art in this case is on. How do I get? I want the art behind me, not to show. Almost all the art here was done on the back of a poster. So here's the back of the poster framed, and then these are the art pieces. And that's Congo's Caper. I did not understand how popular Plock was until I started showing this piece. So this is Plock for the Super Nintendo, volume 53. And these are painted cells. You can see if I light them, you can see the wave in the acetate. There you go. There's the wave in the acetate. So these are actually painted on celluloid. And they're beautiful. It makes them, I mean, they're just incredibly vibrant. I have a lot more like this, and we'll get a lot of my Mega Man stuff is on painted cell too. But yeah, this is Plock, and a lot of you out there really like Plock. One thing that I thought was interesting is that these are basically repaints of some of the art that the original creator did. In fact, when the original creators saw this piece in particular, he goes, "Wait a minute, I have that piece," and he pulled out a marker drawing that was identical to this piece. So clearly, Nintendo showed this artist those pieces and went, "Hey, can you just like do this again but cleaner and in paint?" And so he did. So I wouldn't ever say that the artist here plagiarized that work because I'm sure that's what Nintendo basically told him to do. But yeah, there is very similar work to these from the actual creator of Plock. All right, so this whole wall is turtles. So let's get into this. So the first set I'm going to show you is Tournament Fighters for the NES, and then the second set will be, hold on, I'm changing hands. And then I'll show you Tournament Fighters for the Super Nintendo. So this is, again, the title image. And this was volume 54. Here we have Casey Jones. He's up there. There goes Piper. And here is Hothead. He is there. And this is Shredder. Metroid is great. You must be catching up on the stream. And this is Donatello fighting Casey Jones. Oh, wait, he's on the other one. So I did actually frame these separately. I framed like the 4 turtles and then everything else, essentially. Because again, as you can see, these pieces were done on like 8x10 or larger paper. So in an effort not to like have to physically trim them down, I had to split the frame because otherwise, like if I was going to try to put all of this in a single frame, it would just not be sustainable. Like I wouldn't have a place for it, right? So so down here are the turtles from Tournament Fighters for the NES. You can come by. She now has a mask. So here's Leonardo. Here's Leo. Here's Raph. Where's he? He's on one of these, right? Oh, there he is over here. I try when I'm doing frames to put the art next to each other. Sometimes it's just not possible, or it would just make a weird shape. So it's not always the case. So like in this case, Raphael is here, but then he's on this page over here. Go ahead. And then here's Flamin' Foot Michelangelo. And then here's that Donatello fighting Casey, which is weird because this is the only picture of Donatello in that spread. Like there's not a hero shot like these 3. It's just Donnie fighting Casey, which is weird. All right, now we go to Tournament Fighters for the SNES. There is no title image for that, I don't think, because I'm pretty sure they just used the cover for the game. But here's Leonardo. I love these ones because it's so much more dynamic and like magic based. Like here's Leonardo's Sonic Boom and Donatello's 100-hand slap. We're clearly just ripping off Street Fighter at this point. Michelangelo's Hadouken. And I don't know what I'd call that. Is there? Well, I guess what, Yoga Fire? Yeah, Raphael's Yoga Fire. Nice. Interestingly, for some reason, I was just noticing in this image, like the fireball goes straight on, and then in the published piece, they bothered to change it a little, just enough, which is odd. And then these are the bad guy. This is the bad guy frame for this. There's Armagon and Wingnut and Chrome Dome and Asuka, which I don't know why they didn't just make a Ninja April, because that's a thing. And this is War. And this is Cyber Shredder. is up there. All right. Moving down. All right, we're getting baby sharks. These 3 pieces are actually the same artist that did. Come on, focus. There we go. Okay, these next three pieces are actually the same artist that did the posters. So this is for Magician, and this is volume 21, I think. 21 or 24? 21. And this is Immortal, volume 20.
Here's Baby Shark by Pink Fong.
Looks like we're listening to Baby Shark. Actually, I can't have her do that because it's going to stop the stream. Alexa, stop. Baby, I can't play copyrighted music on the stream. I know. Let me get into the... Piper, give me a minute. Let me get into the game room first, okay? And then I'll close the door, and then you can do it. All right, so this is a flashback, and that is volume 56. This piece is amazing. This is another reader-submitted piece of art. I told you they never gave back envelopes, so envelopes are very difficult to find. This is currently the only envelope on display that I have. This is the... it was for the celebration of the 100th issue, and this is actually the artist sent this in from a military base in Korea, and this is volume 102, so it ended up getting published in 102, but was for the 100th issue, and what she did... See if I can show it. I'm not sure I can get enough clarity on this to show you. But what she did, there we go. Come on, do it. Was she wrote down the names of every Super Nintendo and N64 game made to date on this thing. Like, I cannot imagine the amount of work that it took to fit all these games in there. And of course, the girl at the time was like 9. I mean, it's just an amazing piece of art, and I love it so much. This is Zen Intergalactic Ninja. I like this piece. I like these pieces because they're so comic booky. Because, well, that's how he was styled. So, so here we have the title card, and then also this word bubble piece here. Now, this you'll see. You know, they put in all the phrasing after the fact, so so the word bubbles are all empty. So I'm trying to light these in a way that I get the benefit of the light source, but don't blind you. All right. So we're done with this hallway, but not at all done. So, hey Piper, you can play Baby Shark now if you want. I'm going to lock us in the game room here. Normally, of course, the game room doesn't have all this iron gate in it for the art. This is set up specifically for you guys. So, in fact, once I'm done in here today, I'm going to break all this down and put the gate in storage and put the art back in the racks. But so we'll start over here. This is Kingdom Crusade for the Game Boy, and this is volume 40. So this is the title card. And then again, there was a very, very large, some very, very large pieces here. So as you can see, while they in the magazine were incredibly small, the artist painted them rather large. Here we have Kirby's Pinball, which I've never seen any other Kirby art besides the Kirby art that's in this room, as far as like people who own it. So here's Kirby's Pinball Land, and this is the title image. And then there was some other like ancillary art for this piece, like like these little like springs and stuff. But as far as actual art, I think this title card was really the only one. Here's Adventure Island 2 for the Game Boy, and we have this piece here, as well as this piece here. I didn't frame them together because I actually bought them separately. It's the same artist, but I purchased them separately. Sometimes that just happens. Because I'll find something and then find more of it. Like I might be in that spot with Blades of Steel, right? So these are the 2 Blades of Steel pieces that I have, but that's not nearly all of the pieces in this spread. So if I were to find another one, I'd have to kind of frame it separately or reframe all of it, which I'm not really apt to do. This Aerobiz piece I think is really funny because it's just the same dude 3 times in different emotes. So I like his like sweaty concerned emote. And there's his sweaty concerned published face. I would love this image. This is clearly not the same artist, but it's beautiful. I would love this piece. Unfortunately, I don't know where it is. Here's a big one for me. So this is all of the art for the Kirby's Adventure for the NES spread. Interestingly, the artist put like all 4 of the images for this piece here on the same piece of paper, and then they split them. I think I'm currently using the like full mouth Kirby here for my Twitter profile picture. Again, these were split. Here's the sword swing, and then here's the other 3. This is Gradius. I want to say it's 3 for the Game Boy, 2 for the Game Boy. One of the greatest. This piece is actually really special to me because it's the first one I bought. As I had mentioned, I did a video game or a Nintendo Gameplay Counselor exhibit last year, and in doing research, I ran across a gentleman that had been a gameplay counselor and then moved over to Nintendo Power and did art for them. And so that's how I was introduced to all of this, was through that gentleman. And this was the first piece that I bought. This piece, is a reminder of like how much like time, effort, energy, and money they had to spend on this magazine. Because I mean, you're commissioning these beautiful paintings. Like that's a full-on painting, and then it's used for a thumbnail. Yeah, it's just awesome. Next we've got, so here's a glut of Mega Man content. So I'll back up a little bit. So this is all Mega Man, and it's also all painted cell. So this is Mega Man 6 for the NES. So we have like Flame Man, Plant Man, Blizzard Man, Tomahawk Man, and then down here, more Mega Man 6, Yamato Man, Night Man, Centaur Man. This always annoys me when I'm framing things, by the way, when you have like a set and one of them is a different orientation. But Centaur Man and Wind Man. So those are the enemies I have for Mega Man 6 for the NES. And then this is Mega Man 4 for the Game Boy. So here we have Toad Man and Pharaoh Man and Bright Man, and Ring Man. Again, framed in my lovely purple suede. And then down here is... Oh, did I not frame his page? Oh, they messed up. Okay. So sometimes when I didn't even notice this till right now. So sometimes when I'm framing things, I have to provide them 2 pages that are the same because I want them to frame one on one side and one on the other. So if you look, they made a mistake here. So this page is supposed to have Charge Man and is this Crystal Man? Oh no, sorry, not Crystal Man. Charge Man and I'm not sure who's missing. But anyway, my point is that so here's this page here. This is supposed to be flipped around, so they framed it backwards because this page is also up here, which is where it's supposed to be. So it's supposed to have the other side framed. So I'll have to have them fix that after quarantine. But yeah, so this is the wrong page for this frame. But here we have Wily and Belade and Crystal Man, and I have no idea what his name is. You guys will know better than I am because I don't have a page. I don't have a page to look at because these 3 are on this missing page. All right, so that is my glut of Mega Man villains. This is the title header for Knights of the Round, and it's just the background brick in the sword. What's interesting is that I do have art for the characters in this piece, but for whatever reason, they had their internal artist paint these paintings and then they published a different artist. I don't know, it's the not exact same, but it's clear that they were the 2 different interpretations of the same characters. So I don't know why they chose not to use that art, but I haven't framed it because it wasn't published. Here's some more Adventure Island. This is Super Adventure Island. I love how varied the styles, because obviously this is a very kind of hand-drawn, less refined piece of art, and then over here you have these super amazing, clear, saturated cells, and these are all from the same publication, right? It's amazing to me how varied the art was for this magazine. So this is Super Adventure Island for volume 36. And then this is Adventure Island for the Game Boy in volume 31. This is probably... No, but close to my rarest piece as far as how rare the game is. So this is the title card for Fire and Ice for the NES. And then they do have some ancillary art that I don't have, but this is really the primary image in the spread. Tarzan for the Game Boy. I love how sassy this it's supposed to be a crocodile. It looks like a dinosaur. But whatever. I like how sassy he is. She is. It is. Tarzan with his toothy grin. It's crazy too because this and this are the same artist and they look like completely different artists. Oh, this is King of the Monsters. I want to say 2. One of the King of the Monsters games. I think it's interesting that they had different artists for the different monsters. I don't have the other monsters. I would love them. They're awesome and they almost look like early D&D characters. As far as the art style, like that very loose colored pencil look. I'd love to have them, but this is like a much tighter painting, which makes me believe that it's a completely different artist. And then this is like when people ask like, "Oh, do you frame everything?" I usually show them this because it's a thumb. So this is from Smash TV Volume 28, but it's this image, and the artist was like, "Yeah, I needed a thumb," and so I just drew my own thumb. So yes, I framed this picture of a thumb. Here is one of the players' pulses. Players' pulse also often had like some kind of strange one-off art. These are kids debating about the Game Boy, because the table that they're on is a Game Boy. I'm not really sure what's going on right here, but like there's the image, and then there's the painting. I love how this almost looks like a family circle, like sort of illustration that you would find in like a children's magazine. Oh, more Mega Man. This is Mega Man 4 for the NES. Someone will correct me. You know, it's Toadman and Diveman. I don't have all of them. I love how chibi these are though, and again that like loose colored pencil that I think is really interesting. And again, totally different than the painted cells. And like these were being published at roughly the same time, or relatively the same time. So it's interesting how varied you would have art for a single property when you were publishing it at the same time. All right. Here is Edutainment. This spread was covered a few games. This was Mario is Missing and Miracle Piano and Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. So here you have a teacher archetype kind of walking you through the edutainment titles here. So again, these are all like empty word bubble images. I love, in this one you can clearly see she's reading the Star Fox issue of Nintendo Power. Like they bothered to do that, which makes me laugh. And then this image actually wasn't used in the spread, but I like it a lot. So this is kind of an interesting piece. So this is for Time Diver Aeon Man, and the thing that makes this special is that the game was actually not released. They did a full spread, and the ROM is done, and if you want to go out there and play it, it's out there to play. But they never commercially released this game, so this is really the only production art for the game that exists, because they did the spread and then the game never came out. So there's not like there's a cover box or manual or anything, until Frank and Kelsey find it. But yeah, so this is for Time Diver Aeon Man for the Super Nintendo. I'm going to kind of have to crawl down here. This is for the 4-in-1 Game Boy. And this is the last two pieces that I'm showing today. But this is the 4-in-1 Game Boy cover for, or not cover, but coverage for Nintendo Power. And I love how like ridiculously like 80s some of these images are. This is one of my favorite pictures too, because it's like two Game Boys playing chess with people. So I'm really trying to like crawl around stuff to show you this one. So okay, So that's actually everything I have to show you today. That's everything that's on display. Again, it's not absolutely everything in the collection. There's some stuff that's stuck because of quarantine. Some stuff that I have put away in binders. I don't frame everything. I just can't do that. So some things I don't have in frames. But this would be what you would be able to see if you went to an art exhibit that I put on. So there we go. I want to leave this open for a minute to see if anybody has any questions. If you do have questions, ask them now. Or if you want to see something again that I already showed, let me know. But that's going to be it for today otherwise. So who has questions? Do you have questions? I'm leaving the game room. Legacy of the Wizard. No, I have not. Do I have any original box art? Also, no, I don't collect original box art. It's one of those things where I have decided that, first of all, the landscape is swarming with people who collect box art, so it's much more competitive. And so this was a niche that I kind of identified that no one was really doing at the time, which is why I was able to amass so much of it. It's because no one else was really looking. Or few people were looking. So usually, the few times that I have come across box art, I usually end up reselling it to one of those people in order to finance this collection. So there's plenty of box art collectors out there that are doing a great job with this. No one was really servicing Nintendo Power, so so I chose to do that. See if I'm missing anybody. I saw the Metroid is great comments. I saw Pixel Game Squad come in. Hey guys. One question before the stream. This collection? So this collection was actually started fairly recently. I was able to do quite a bit of quote-unquote damage in a very short amount of time. This has been about a year, I would say. Yeah, about a year. Oh, did I not go over this wall? I have a whole wall that I missed. Look at this wall. I did not go over this wall. Let's go over this wall. So this is Turok for the Game Boy. What's interesting about Turok is that they use this cover several times for several different things. Originally, it was for this comic book cover, and then they used it for the cover of the Game Boy game, and then they used it for the title image for the coverage in Nintendo Power. And this is actually the only, if you were looking for cover art. So I guess I take it back. I do own a piece of box art. It's this one, in that it's incidentally also box art. But yeah, if you were looking for Turok box art, this is the only one that's actually done by hand. So so yeah, it's everything else is CG. So this is really the only like collectible, quote unquote, and by that I mean collectable, like you are able to collect it, Turok cover. These you probably won't recognize, but have seen similar images a lot. So these are actually not published in Nintendo Power, but when you became an artist for Nintendo Power, if you were a staff artist, you had to basically take an art test or like basically show them what you could do with Nintendo IP. So this is an art test from one of the staff artists. So a while, and you can see these are also painted cells. So as you might be able to glean, this is the same artist that did all that Mega Man work. So he does have the pencils in back here, and then the painted cell. Sorry for all this glare. I put down my light because I thought we were done. And then this is Mylon Secret Castle. I don't have much to say about this, I don't think. Except that it's Mylon Secret Castle. And then this is a rough for this image in Smash TV. I don't have the final painting. This is a color copy of the final painting. But this is a original rough. Okay, now we're done. Sorry. I thought we were done. We weren't. I answered the box art question. I answered the question about when I started collecting. Oh, to kind of talk about that more. I started collecting art pretty recently. As far as when I started collecting games, that's a more difficult question to answer because I've worked in the industry for 17 years. And so sort of accidentally collected a lot of things that way. But then, especially early in the industry when I was in quality assurance and that work was very feast or famine. So the Power Glove sign is back there right now. So I can't get to it. I'm happy to take more shots of the Power Glove sign, and I can put that on Twitter, but I can't show it to you because it's behind the gate that I have set up for art. I can sort of like sneak you some, I guess, from behind the gate. This feels so like sneaky. There, it's back there. There. There you go. It's probably the best shot you're gonna get. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, I've worked in the industry for 17 years, so I kind of accidentally collected a lot of various things. Thanks, Kurt, and welcome to the stream. I'm sorry. But through my years of employment and unemployment, and because quality assurance in the game industry, especially close to 20 years ago, was very feast or famine. It was super project based. We would staff up to 300 people and then staff down to 10. During on and off for projects. So sometimes times were tough, and so a lot of times my collection at that point got really kind of decimated between jobs. I feel very fortunate that I am more financially solvent now, so I don't see knock on wood, I don't see a situation where that would happen, but these days where I'd have to sell my collection for financial ruin, hopefully. So I guess the when I started collecting earnestly was when my wife got sick. So my wife passed away in October. I'm going to put this down. I'm just going to talk to you. For those who don't know, and I think a lot of you do, my wife was suffering from stage 4 breast cancer for 4 years, and she passed away in October. And I'm fine, but we don't have to talk about it. But that was when she got sick. It was the first time. I needed something to distract me from that. Right? It's a very consuming thing, cancer, especially not necessarily. People don't all the time really understand when you are a caregiver how consuming that is. And I was really looking for something to distract me from all that. And so I for like 30 years, I collected toys and comic books and mainly Ninja Turtle stuff. And so at that point, though, I had sort of fallen out of love with that. And at the same time, I was starting to work for Nickelodeon and working on the Turtles. So it felt weird that I was collecting turtles and working on them. Even though now I collect games and work on games. So I had this collection that I started kind of using as a piggy bank. I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll start collecting games to distract myself. And 2.5 months later, I had put together the Super Nintendo set, which is a very quick turnaround for doing a set like that. But I was, again, hyper focused and trying to take my mind off things, and I had this other collection that I was using as a piggy bank. So came together pretty quickly. Collecting in earnest, like at the level that I'm collecting now, I'd say I've been collecting for like 5 years. But I've been collecting on and off really throughout my tenure in the game industry. So sort of for 17 years and then really hard for the last 5. I think that is a very thorough answering of your question. All right, I'm actually pretty satisfied that this took as long as it did. I thought we were going to be in and out of here, but this is almost an hour and a half later, and because of the video I shot the other day of it, where I'm just flying through, was like 11 minutes, so including an intro. So goals of my collection. That's been tough to answer because I've gotten asked that a couple times recently. Because the thing is the way that I collect now, it's not like I'm not really collecting video games anymore, right? Like, yes, you look around here and you see a shit ton of video games, but that's not really what I'm collecting now. I have collected that, and I have like 11 full sets of North American games, and that's great, and yay. And I love my games, but that's not my focus now. And the trouble with like setting goals with what I'm doing now is that I don't know what I'm going to find, right? It's not, I don't have a list, right? There's not a list of like Nintendo employee items or a list of gameplay counselor items. It's one of those things where I'm discovering things as I go. And so you ask me like what my grail is, and my grail is whatever I find tomorrow, right? I mean, it's a weird dynamic, because normally in collecting you can set a goal and say, okay, like I want all the Super Nintendo games, or I want all the Sega Genesis games, or whatever. It's more difficult when you're and I'm sure Kelsey can relate to this too, like where you aren't hunting for something as much as you're just hunting, and things are becoming known to you as you go, right? So like there's not really like a white whale out there. Although the one thing that I would really like is I'm a big Star Fox fan, and I have the pencils for that cover. I would really like the final for that cover. I have no idea where it is, and I would love that. And the artist doesn't know where it is either. So likely it's in behind the walls of Nintendo, or like Dylan Cuthbert has it or something. But I certainly don't know where that is right now. So as far as like things that I would love to have that I know exist and I don't know where they are, is the Star Fox cover for Nintendo Power. If you pushed me, maybe a grail would be like the clay maquettes from the Earthbound strategy guide. That would be cool. I do not know who sculpted those, nor do I know where they are, or if they exist, or if like how long they existed for. Because like something like I had mentioned the Maniac Mansion cover. That model was torn down days after it was shot, so it hasn't existed for 20 some odd years, right? And I don't know if that's the same case for the Earthbound models too. They could have shot them for that guide and then just went, like that happens. And it would depend on what they're made out of, because like the reason that the clay cover for the first issue right? That was done by a different artist than any of the stuff that I have, and she made that out of regular clay, like earth clay. I don't even know what the term is for that, but like just normal clay, and so it just fell apart naturally over the course of time. So that was around for a while, those pieces, and it is not around now. Um, but so what they're made out of is really important. The stuff I have here is like polymer clay, hard dried baked polymer clay and plastic. So it was kind of set up for, aside from someone like deciding to destroy it, it was really kind of set up to last probably longer than some other things, just by virtue of what it was made out of. And you're welcome. Anybody have any more questions? You can always hit me up on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or Video Game Sage. For those who don't know how to find me other places, then, because I assume most of you came from Twitter, where I am Art of NP, because there was a character limit for names. I couldn't fit Art of Nintendo Power. But if you search Art of Nintendo Power, you'll also find me that way. But everywhere else, Video Game Sage or YouTube or Instagram, I'm Archon1981, Archon 1981. If that name rings a bell, I've been doing stuff like this. It hasn't just, I'm not brand new to the scene or anything like that. Last year I found the UWC prototype, and dumped that through, and was able to put that and publish that. So yeah, I'm very active on Instagram. Right now I'm probably most active on Twitter because the reach seems to be much broader than any other platform, right? I've amassed a bigger community in a matter of weeks on Twitter than I did in 4 years on Instagram. So yeah, but yeah, that's how to find me. And certainly, I'll say it right now, there's nothing that I showed you today that I'm selling. I don't typically sell things unless it's to fund this collection. So, but yeah, so it would be kind of futile for you to like hit me up and ask if I have anything for sale. Now, if you have something for sale, on the other hand, I am pretty much always buying, and so if you're sitting out there and watching this feed and you're like an ex-Nintendo Power artist, by all means, sell me your art. But yeah, I don't really monetize this collection either. Part of the whole thing about putting art on display that you don't have the image rights for is that I can't really monetize it. So there'll never be an art book. There'll never be any product based on this collection because Nintendo owns those image rights, and like I want them to appreciate what I do and not hunt me down and kill me. So yeah, don't expect there to be a book you can buy or anything like that, or T-shirts with these images on it. I might make a T-shirt for like the channel brand or something, but yeah, no product. And then I actually have it set up in my will that that when I go, that all of this art is actually going to the Strong. So and that'll be probably brokered through the Video Game History Foundation. So but yeah, so it's not something that I don't buy and sell. The exception, like I said, would be if I found art that was not from Nintendo Power, because these artists sometimes they do other stuff for other magazines or ads or game box covers or something like that. like the same artist that did some of those covers out there also did the cover for Dino City for the SNES, so I did have that for a while that I resold and then put that money back into the collection, right? But I don't actively sell things like, you know, I don't have a price for this stuff, right? All right, we're about to hit an hour and a half on the nose, so if there are no other questions, I am going to wrap it up. Again, if you want to hang out and talk to me or get in contact with me for anything else, if you want to do a podcast or you want to do an article or whatever, like that's great too. But find me on Twitter at ArtofNP and Instagram at Archon1981, also on YouTube at Archon1981. I think that's going to be it, guys. Again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to sit with me and go through this. It was going to drive me crazy having put all this together and then not be able to show it. So this was as much for me as it was for you. So thank you very much. It's really important to me that I get to share this work. That is literally the only reason why I do this. So yeah, that's it. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.